The fact that Beuys is obviously disinterested in creating objects, in making works of art in the conventional way, and that, on the contrary, what remains as art is a result of a particular and significant event in his life, fills it with a certain content that is unlike what so much of what is seen today can claim. So it is this intensity and the lack of distinction between a testimony of a life situation and the ultimate transformation of such testimony into an object that I feel to be Beuys's very particular asset. Now, with Beuys, this question of quality and excellence and so on doesn't have the same ring, because he at the creative stage these qualities are not perceptible. He is neither particularly concerned with what traditionally is called beauty, nor is that the idea. He is concerned with intensity of meaning, which has the possibility in time to be perceived as beauty, usually not initially. And that is, of course, an experience that anyone who has studied art history, and particularly the history of modern art, is thoroughly aware of. When Cézanne, or the Impressionists for that matter, to say nothing of Picasso or Kandinsky, created their first works in a inventive idiom of their own, the question was not whether people thought it was good or bad. They did not see it as art. And I think we are at this stage with Beuys, where in the absence of a continuity or sufficient exposure, the impression is that this is something other than art, and it will take some time. Well, I think it will have effects on many levels. The people who have followed advanced contemporary art know, of course, about Beuys, and for them I think it will be a chance to see a concentrated group of his major works together in a way in which it has never been seen, and enjoy, as I do, an impact and an intensity which is rare and quite unique. For the general public, I think it will be a very difficult introduction. I think it will probably be largely misunderstood. The questions that are likely to be asked are not easily answered. Since Joseph Beuys has never been seen in any such expanse in the United States, at least, and I doubt that he has been seen anywhere in this fullness, and given our sense of his importance and his position among creative thinkers, it seemed natural to us to do this. Without any question, perhaps the most ambitious undertaking that we have ever launched into, and I'm amazed myself that we should be so close to the opening and that everything should have fallen into place so effectively. So my impression is that we are at the verge of a rather magnificent occasion. Even if the answers are not forthcoming, and even if the questions are not perhaps correctly posed, it does initially open up a awareness of something, no matter how mysterious, no matter how far-fetched, that will result, even with the general public, in a broadening of the art concept, in a ultimately greater awareness of what art is about. I regard the entire show another creative expression made of individual components, and of course only Beuys could have done the show that way. The show would normally not be installable. No curator, no director could have gathered those pieces and combined them into the kind of unity that Beuys has achieved himself by considering the show and working with it in a still new and stirring context. Financial problems seemed insurmountable to me. It has been a very difficult thing to finance this.
Has the scale been much broader than other financial?
It has been a very expensive thing to do, yes, but it also has been a particularly valuable thing to do. So when he was here, I asked him to do the show. He agreed, and implicitly we assumed responsibility for everything else. One could have, as I thought occasionally one should, one could have reached for certain aids that would make things stand up straight or hang more manageably, or there were many things in which the building could have been made more serviceable in a technical sense. He has grasped intuitively or otherwise all the problems and has removed them by transcending it. And this is really what I meant by saying that he has neither adjusted himself nor has he fought it. He has remained himself within a space to which he accorded full autonomy. Yeah. What Joseph Beuys does, he considers the consequences of situations emanating from the works of art, an extension of his art itself, and speaks of social sculpture, speaks of situations that are as much the formation of a creative imagination as the work itself. So in that respect, there is no difference between Mondrian and Beuys. The difference begins with Mondrian's readiness to leave it at that. Beuys, I think, argues this point through his work and himself undertakes to carry it from those silent and metaphoric aspects into life situation where he accompanies it into its ultimate effects. Now, of course, there is somewhere a threshold in which it perhaps ceases to be art in this immune sense, at least, and becomes something else, becomes life. At this moment, Beuys and his work is no longer enjoying the immunity of art, because the consequences will be judged in life situations rather than in art situations. That, too, is a very interesting point. So the one that, to me, has had the most explicit meaning was Tram Stop, because I was in Venice when this work stood in the midsection of the German pavilion, and as I said when I introduced Dr. Galwitz, who spoke about him the other day at the Guggenheim Museum, it was the moment of my conversion to Beuys. Suddenly things became clear when I saw this, and so seeing it here now, even though it is lying down, in other words, even though it has become in the meantime a museum piece rather than a living conveyor of art contents, I find particularly moving, but many others.